Hello, I'm Michael Pascoe. It's Monday, May 12, and there's no prize for guessing what the main news will be this week. Joe Hockey's first budget, or what's left of it that hasn't already been leaked. The budget and the inevitable argy-bargy that precedes and follows it will dominate proceedings, but it's not the only show in town. The latest NAB Business Confidence Survey is out today. The Commonwealth Bank has a quarterly update on Wednesday to complete the quadrella of big banks reporting, and there's a smattering of other corporate results as well. March housing finance numbers and key Chinese April data for retail sales, industrial production and fixed asset investment are being released tomorrow, but they will be overshadowed by Joe Hockey's half hour upon the stage. So why fight it? It's really all about the budget. The government seems to have made sure that the bad news has been telegraphed, so the actual budget tomorrow night shouldn't have much shock value. But if Joe Hockey lives up to the hype, there could well be a shock between the lines. The government pushing GDP growth next year back down to 2.5% from the present rate of more than 3%. The difference that makes is that unemployment would start rising again and business confidence would be further rattled. And it's not me making that prediction. AMP chief economist and strategist Shane Oliver reckons the additional fiscal tightening in the budget is likely to represent about 0.3% of GDP in 2014-15. With the existing budget settings, before Joe Hockey stubs his cigar out in it, the Reserve Bank on Friday forecasts GDP growth of 2.75% for the new financial year. Take off Shane Oliver's estimate of 0.3% and we're back to where we were in the September quarter. No jobs growth whatsoever. And also remember the RBA's further warning in its monetary statement on Friday that the contribution to growth by the government sector was already running at about half its long-term average. Unless there are some very surprising goodies then, knocking growth back down would wipe out whatever's left of the immediate confidence boost that came with the coalition's election win. Since then, there's been no attempt by the government to highlight the good growth the economy was racking up, preferring instead to stress doom and gloom about an immediate budget crisis that does not exist. Shane Oliver summed it up nicely in his weekly economic spray. Quote, "Our concern is that the government has exaggerated the budget problem. It's a problem but far from an emergency, and that this, combined with the political cycle which argues in favour of getting the budget pain over with early, will result in the government going too hard in terms of fiscal austerity. The OECD has rightly warned Australia that heavy front-loading of fiscal consolidation should be avoided. Right now, the economy is still a bit fragile, with only tentative signs of improvement in the non-mining economy, but this could be snuffed out if the budget is too tough." End quote. Joe Hockey will try to counter such thinking tomorrow night with a story about building roads. He previewed it yesterday by claiming an $82 billion investment in roads over the next 6 years. $40 billion of it from the federal government and $42 billion from state governments and the private sector. Now, how much of that big figure is new spending and how much is a rehash remains to be seen. I mean, how many times can you announce Sydney's WestConnex project and there still hasn't been any concrete poured? Construction won't start until next year, just in time for the state election. It is a sound idea to be investing in infrastructure as resources construction investment falls away over the next few years. Given the long delays between announcing a road spend and actually starting work, the danger is that any extra spending will be too late. It's something that the previous government should have been working on a couple of years ago. Well, given this government's preoccupation with deficit reduction, I can't help suspecting the big new spending won't start until the increase in the fuel excise begins to kick in bigger dollars further down the track. So there's nothing positive for growth in the near future. Oh dear. This leaves the Reserve Bank with the possible dilemma of the economy needing more stimulus when house prices are already sharply higher. I suspect the central bank would be loath to throw any more fuel on the housing fire at this stage. It's likely to delay the eventual rise in interest rates and to encourage the bank to try some of New Zealand's macro-prudential policies to try to constrain the housing market without hurting the rest of the economy. With wonderful timing, Lucy Ellis, head of the RBA Financial Stability Department, is giving a speech on Thursday at the Citibank Residential Housing Conference in Sydney. I'm sure she would welcome a few questions along those lines. Or maybe not. In the meantime, enjoy the budget extravaganza and count how many ways there are to avoid calling a tax increase a tax increase. Talk to you Friday.